dark, and the moon is the only light we'll see. Don't you give me no dirty looks. Your father's hip, he knows what cooks.
By the end of the 50s, teenagers were turning out in force to buy rock and roll.
You ain't got time to take a ride. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
But with the first wave of rockers in the army, in the seminary, in jail, in disgrace, or in the ground, their original listeners moved on to different styles. Elaborately crafted in the studio, the records that now started to sell were the products of an almost forgotten era in rock and roll that was dominated by new power players, the producers. The story of the producers' growing importance to rock and roll had begun much earlier in the 50s, when two 19-year-old songwriters went looking for some rhythm and blues.
We went down to a rehearsal at Johnny Otis's and listened to his singers. He had a number of different singers down there. Had Mel Williams and Little Esther and Big Mama Thornton. Big Mama got up and sang a song, and she just knocked us out.
Daddy, Big Mama's got to go. Be back later just to satisfy your soul. They call me Big Mama 'cause I weigh 300 pounds.
She was so nasty. She had all these razor scars all over her face. I loved her. We looked at each other and decided to take off immediately. And we jumped in Mike's car and headed for his house. We landed, and Mike went to the piano, and I started yelling. The song came together in about 8 or 10 minutes.
How did you sing it?
How did I sing it? You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Like that.
That's how he sings.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
In 1953, black record buyers made Hound Dog a #1 rhythm and blues hit. But 3 years later, it would find a different audience. Leiber was the first to hear the news.
The first thing he said to me, "We got a smash." He said, "Hound Dog." And I said, "No kidding, Big Mama Thornton? That record?" And he said, No, somebody named Elvis Presley." I said, "Elvis what?"
You ain't knocking
Elvis's up-tempo version of Hound Dog was released in 1956 by his new record company, RCA. It was the best-selling single of his career.
One, two, two. Walking through a party in the county jail. The prison band was there, they began to wail. The band was jumping and the joint began to swing. You should have heard the knocked out.
When he started to do feature films, it was natural for RCA and Colonel Tom Parker to turn to what was clearly a winning songwriting combination.
They started to give us assignments for movies.
That's how you write songs on assignment, because the guy says, unless you give me my songs, you're not getting out of this room alive.
Writing songs for Elvis put the two 23-year-old hipsters at the top of the rock and roll songwriting establishment, but too far from their original love for black R&B. Instead, they found their true artistic voice in a black vocal group they created called the Coasters. It was all part of a revolutionary deal they signed with Atlantic Records, the New York R&B label. Traditionally, such companies had controlled the whole record-making process. They picked the songs for the artist and then produced the recordings in their own studios. In the first deal of its kind in the industry, Atlantic contracted to buy finished records from Leiber and Stoller. The team not only wrote the songs, they produced them as well. They were at the forefront of an important new trend: unprecedented creative power shifting to independent producers. Through the Coasters, Leiber and Stoller had the power to do almost anything, from hardcore rhythm and blues to social commentary.
I saw her standing on the corner, the whoop shoot, a yellow ribbon in her hair. Whoop the whoop shoot, I could not keep myself from shouting. Why, look at there, look at there, look at there, look at there. Young blood, oh, 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 young blood. Tell me about it. Young blood, I can't get you out of my mind. Leiber and Stoller writing black music. They were two Jewish kids, knew my culture better than I knew my culture. And I said, how do they do that? You know, and I wondered, I thought about it, I said, how do they know what we do? Because every song they wrote was in our culture. What is the secret of your success?
The Coasters' talent for comedy helped Leiber and Stoller turn their records into what they called 3-minute playlets.
Come on now, come on, confess. What is the secret of your success? You've been able to achieve what most folks can't.
Well, some cats got it, and some cats ain't.
All of their material is somehow poking fun at an idea. If some seem a little bit more white or a little bit more black, I think that's like unconscious. The main thing is that they're always comedy, it's always vaudeville, and it's always some kind of social commentary.
So they would sit at the piano and he would play and they would sing down in Mexico, Young Blood or whatever, and we would sit and listen. Now, if we didn't like the song, we'd tell them, no way.
We have songs in the trunk. We wrote a song for them called Color Folks. Color folks don't act like color folks.
We encountered a lot of racial prejudice in Alabama and places like that.
Color folks don't talk like color folks no more.
We walked into a place in South Carolina and announced that we were the closest to work there on the beach.
Color folks don't walk the way they did before.
She said, you're not the coasters. I said, here's a picture. Yes, we are. She said, no, you're not. The coasters are white.
Billy Guy said, they're gonna lynch us in Ricksburg.
And he spat at one of my guys' feet. And I said, let's get out of here, man. We got out and went to the next gate.
Yeah, of course they had attitudes. If they thought we were going too far, they would stop us.
They would let us know.
But when we hit on something that was really in the ballpark, which was like theater, fun, universal, they were the best.
The Coasters were started with a black audience in mind, but by 1957, white America had caught on. When Leiber and Stoller moved from Los Angeles to New York, they went as well. The group rocketed to the top of the charts with a double-sided smash, Young Blood and Searchin'. Searchin' was in the classic Leiber and Stoller format. Comic strip lyrics over a pounding rhythm and blues beat.
And no matter where she's hiding, she's gonna hear me coming. I'm gonna walk right down that street like a running, 'cause
I think the business was changing. There was a much bigger white audience for this kind of material than there ever had been. I think that the subject matter, unwittingly, right, was getting a little broader. Like the early stuff I wrote, I was imitating the great old blues singers. When I wrote things like Real Ugly Woman, well, teenage kids don't buy songs about real ugly women, you know, and they don't buy songs by Amos Milburn like
Bad Whiskey.
Bad Bad Whiskey, but they do buy songs about, you know, bad girls walking down the street, you know.
Life could be a dream. Life could be a dream.
The Coasters were not the only group who had started off as kids on street corners, practicing a gospel harmony style that had become known as doo-wop.
I'm the only one that's in love. Life could be a dream. So you're hello again. Shaboom, and open with me again. Boom, ba boom, life could be a dream.
Doing doo-wop came about when I was in my teen years. I met a couple of school pals that was singing, and they found that I could sing a bit, and I joined the group, and we start singing on the corners.
Every time I look at you, something is on my mind.
And girls found out that we were like good. See, the whole thing about doo-wop wasn't just singing, it was to get girls.
As a replacement singer in the Drifters, an already legendary doo-wop group, Benny King moved from the New York streets to the studio for one of the most influential recordings of the day.
The way I really had wrote There Goes My Baby was, there goes my baby, moving on down the line. I was there, but when I got to Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller, they went to the kettle drums, dong, dong, da-da, da-da, da. I said, oh my God, what do I do with this thing here? There she goes. There she goes. They said, okay, it's a 4-bar intro. And I didn't know nothing about counting bars. And they showed me, so it says count 1, 2, 3, 4. So they taught me how to count bars, and they said it's a 4-bar intro, and then start singing. And all that's going in my mind, at the same time I have all these strings getting ready to do bits and pieces, and the kettle drums going. So I was a bit off, but I knew once I started singing, it was their problem to fix. It wasn't mine. All I have to do is, he say, count 4 bars and start singing.
There goes my baby, moving on down the line. Wonder where she is bound.
They aspired to dare to put strings on and orchestral percussion. I mean, this was unheard of. If you didn't have drums and honking horns and a saxophone, doo-wah, 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 what kind of record were you making?
Well, it evolved during the rehearsals. I came up with this line, which sounds like Borodin or Rimsky-Korsakov, because it felt good. And Jerry said, that sounds like violins. And I said, well, why not?
Leiber and Stoller stuck to their guns, and they made this record, I don't know, with perhaps 20 strings, with the cellos doing it, da-da-dee-dee-dee-dee-da-da, which was a steal from Beethoven, and this and that. And they have all these classical flags and signatures and timpanis and hair drums. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, they went the whole hog.
It was new. It was something that Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller had came up with a new concept for black music and black singers, and it took off, and it just never stopped.
You can dance every dance with the guy.
Leiber and Stoller had created the lush, velvety sound of sweet soul, that would produce hit after hit for the Drifters.
Smile for the man who held your hand 'neath the pale moonlight.
But Ben E. King's career with the group was so brief that on television a fellow Drifter had to mime to his lead vocals.
So darling, say the last dance for me.
Leiber and Stoller agreed to produce King as a solo artist, and again they tempered his gospel style to fit their orchestral productions.
Coming out of the gospel, you do things like, nearer, my God, to thee, oh, nearer, my God, to thee. And then they would take me and say, do this song. There is a rose in Spanish Harlem, a red rose up in Spanish Harlem. It is the special one, it's never seen the sun. It only comes out when the moon is on the run and all the stars are gleaming. I said, you gotta be joking. But once I would do it, it all made sense. It just fit perfectly.
There is a rose in Spanish Harlem, a red rose up in Spanish Harlem. It is a special one, it's never seen the sun. It only comes out when the moon is on the run and all the stars are gleaming. It's growing in the street right up.
Leiber and Stoller had crafted a form of black music that was to be remarkably successful.
They say the neon lights are
Mixing rock and roll with the more traditional songwriting skills of Broadway, they even worked out of the same legendary building that Irving Berlin and Cole Porter had used.
In the upper floors, there were all the publishers and the writers' offices, and the halls were just filled with music. And the doors were not soundproof.
and you ain't had enough. I'm only halfway.
Their work was soon heard by other young songwriters just starting out in the business.
Leiber and Stoller were absolutely role models for Jerry and me in the beginning. They were combining classical music with the string kind of arrangements and the timpani with rhythm and blues, which at that point was definitely not mainstream, and just a good lyric sense that was a part of the Broadway and pop tradition, and it was very inspiring.
Carole King and her partner, Jerry Goffin, would help fill the Brill Building with a new sound, an invasion of male-dominated rock and roll by girls.
Well, I met him on a Sunday,
and I missed him on a Monday.
and Mickey says, well, I phoned him on a Tuesday.
And I dated him on Wednesday.
It was Beverly.
Do run, they run, Papa do run. They run, Papa do.
Ooh, that's how it started.
God.
The Shirelles were four high school friends from New Jersey. Their first recording, I Met Him on a Sunday, didn't even make the top 40. But they soon made recording history with a song written by Goffin and King.
Tonight you're mine completely. You give your love so sweetly. Tonight the light of love is in your eyes. But will you love me tomorrow?
Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow was brought to our office by Carole King herself. She wanted that song to be a success so badly. She was like, that was her baby. She was very proud of that song.
We had a kettle drum guy that was there playing, who she then felt that she could play it better. So she
Yes,
just
she was
left.
uneasy, yes.
Right. So she came into the studio and played it. I remember at that time her husband, Jerry Goffin.
Right.
Because of their energy and feeling about the song, it was passed over to us.
Will You Love Me Tomorrow was the first hit song that Jerry and I ever had as songwriters. We were married and just starting out. And Jerry had a job as a chemist, and when Will You Love Me Tomorrow hit really big, he could quit his day job.
It's the morning sun.
There was quite a lot of controversy that it was suggestive because of the lyric, "Tonight you're mine completely, you give your love so sweetly. Tonight the light of love is in your eyes, but will you still love me tomorrow?"
So tell me now, and I won't ask again. Will you still love me tomorrow?
It definitely spoke for women, young women all over who were wondering if they should do it or not. Will you respect me in the morning? Kind of an attitude was prevalent in that time, and Jerry addressed that.
So tell me now.
Released in 1961, Will You Love Me Tomorrow broke new ground as the first recording by an all-girl group to hit the top of the charts. It was the first of many for the Shirelles. The success of their singles, coupled with relentless touring, put them at the leading edge of what became a girl group explosion.
There did seem to be a blossoming after we
Shirelles.
pretty much, with the Shirelles, of opening the doors so that other groups, girl groups, could follow. And when I think back to it and all of the hard work, when I say that we earned it, we earned it. And I'd like to think that we were a very intricate part of doing that, opening that door, which
I know
is true.
we were. We kicked those doors hard.
The marvelous Marvelettes.
Wait, oh yes, wait a minute, Mr. Bozeman. Wait, hey, Mr. Bozeman. James, my baby's got me locked up in chains.
My boyfriend is back and you're gonna be in trouble.
Hey la, my boyfriend is back. One fine day, you're gonna want me for your girl. Tell him that you're never gonna leave him. Tell him that you're always gonna love him. Tell him right now. Party nights, I see the party lights. Going to the chapel of love. Yeah. Going to the chapel of love.
In the 60s, yeah, God was a young black girl. That was the dominating sound.
One eccentric genius was to exploit that dominating sound and achieve rock and roll immortality. In the summer of '63, the young Phil Spector seized on the black girl group idea, saturated it in the dynamic power of Wagnerian opera, and in the process helped transform rock and roll. Spector had worked with Leiber and Stoller and soaked up their rich orchestral treatment of the Drifters. Later, on his own label, he pioneered what he called Little Symphonies for Kids. Others called it the Wall of Sound.
Somebody told me that his name was Bill. Let it run, let it run. Yes, the heart was sin. Yes, his name was Bill.
Spector wasn't just a producer. He also wrote many of his girl group hits in collaboration with Brill Building staffers like Jeff Barry.
The Do Run Run probably came about because I couldn't think of anything to write at the moment and maybe figured I'd do it the next day and never got around to it. It either means that or it means what do-wah-diddy means, but with three people.
Phil Spector's production techniques influenced generations of rockers. He got the giant sound of his recordings from a surprisingly small room at Gold Star Studios with engineer Larry Levine.
This studio's just about the same size as Gold Star was, and the problem I had then was trying to figure out how I was going to get everybody in. Usually I had 5 guitars, sometimes 6 or 7. 3 pianos were standard. 3 basses were standard. Percussion, I don't know. Any guests that came in were going to end up playing. Drums, we had 1 set. At the end, we had 2. Then we had horns, and to fit everybody in was a physical problem, but it made the sound great. And when these guys started playing, we had the wall of sound.
One of the revolutionary things that Phil did was you never thought of saying, well, I'll have 3 pianos basically playing the same variations of the same rhythm. And what that did was create this rolling rumble that bounced off the ceiling, went into somebody else's microphone, and became the wall of sound. And Philip used to say to me, when we'd play it back out of the speaker, when the playback came back, he'd go, "That's gold. That represents gold coming out of that speaker."
Ultimately, Spector's wall of sound became his trademark, eclipsing the artists themselves, who were often interchangeable.
Darlene Love was the Ronnettes. I think she was the Crystals. She was Darlene Love. He didn't care. He broke all the rules when he recorded then, because he was the star. His song was the star and his sound was the star. So the artist was a secondary item.
1, 2, 3. Every evening when the sun goes down. Whoa, whoa.
The daughter of a minister, Darlene Love had learned to sing in the church choir. Her gospel power could stand up to Spector's production and deliver a convincing street sound. Although she sang lead on records such as the Crystals' He's a Rebel and backup on countless others, few would ever know.
You gonna keep that other part the same? Yeah.
Another of Spector's singers did manage to get some of the limelight for herself. Ronnie Bennett was the lead singer of the Ronnettes, whose stage presence as former go-go dancers combined with Ronnie's titillating voice to create a new type of girl group, the Bad Girls. Long before the Material Girl, Ronnie Bennett was rock and roll's first sex kitten. She later became Phil Spector's wife.
Phil was in love with her voice before he was in love with her. I know, because he said, boy, there's Frankie Lyman. You know, he compared her to Frankie Lyman.
She almost sounded like she was 12 years old all the time. That's what Philip loved about Ronnie, was the sound that she had. He thought she was the perfect artist for the time to interpret music in that period.
Be My Baby was Spector's crowning achievement with his girl group sound. He started to look for new challenges.
I can't imagine what Phil was thinking about when he said, yeah, I want to do the Righteous Brothers. I don't, because it had been at least 90% of the stuff that he was doing at that time, maybe 100%, was all female. It was all real catchy, cute kind of stuff. And so I don't know. And the truth is, I don't even know what made us think that, yeah, that would be a good idea to go with Phil, because we were doing nothing but real rock and roll stuff.
Bill Medley and Bobby Hatfield had earned the name the Righteous Brothers from Black Marines at early gigs in Southern California. Before working with Spector, they were well known on the West Coast club circuit.
The Righteous Brothers sounded very, very black, and we weren't trying to do it as a gimmick because I used to listen to those records, and that was my schooling. I mean, Ray Charles taught me how to sing. He sat me down in my room and taught me how to sing.
Yeah!